So, etiquette is something that's rarely ever spoken about, and in some cases is even frowned upon. And I am I am going to challenge that notion, especially in modern times. There's this notion that in modern times, if a man opens a door for a woman or holds a chair out for a woman, help her get seated, take a coat, hang it over the back of the chair. Um, Stands up when she stands up to go to use the restroom. Stand up when she comes back, or even learned how to have proper table manners, table etiquette by learning to use the various utensils for the appropriate dish. Um, for some reason, those ideas or those actions are considered weak or possibly simping. Um, but I want you guys, especially you young men, to consider that in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, men were doing a lot of those things um, that I just mentioned, but they were still manly men. They were still alpha men, sigma men. Um, they were still respected by women um, and were supported by their women. So, in modern times, since human nature hasn't really changed, um, applying those etiquettes um, doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't mean weakness or simping. I still open doors for women. I just don't. It's just not forced. That's one of the things when you appear over eager to do things and it's not natural. It seems forced, pretentious, and comes off as a facade or fake. Another way to put it. So these things have to be taught where it's part of your behavior. If you have children, sons, you teach them, you start them from young. I am a professional um, at taking care of children. That's the job I'm in therapeutic foster care. So I raise children professionally, and it's something that I teach. Um, Table manners or table etiquette as far as using utensils. Um, you know, one of them recently went out on a date. She applied. She was using a knife and fork, basic knife and fork, not even all the other utensils. And to her date, that was fancy, you know. But it should be normal. Um, when we lower our standards on etiquette, or we label it as something that really isn't. A simp can open the doors to, but so can an alpha male. Um, it's just the way it's done, or what you're expecting in return for doing such a thing is where the problem is. So, learn etiquette, study it, apply it, but don't apply it looking for something. Apply it just because it's the right thing to do. It's not something you should think about. Now, if a woman um, looks at you as though you're a simp, you can show her, because you're in MGTOW, that you really aren't, by walking away, going your own way. Um, I try to be civilized, so I won't curse and things like that, but you basically could tell her to go whatever based on your actions. Being polite is not is also a part of etiquette. You don't, being polite doesn't necessarily mean you're a simp. You can still be polite, and have good manners, and still come off as alpha or sigma, or you can still command respect if you're polite, being polite. You don't necessarily have to be rude. You don't have to be harsh. In some instances, you have to be like that, but for the most part, you don't. Um, I gave a recent example. A woman came up to me, challenged me about my dress, the way I was dressed, and I was about to go work. um, Part of etiquette is hygiene. I was dressed in work clothes, but I smelled good, I looked good, I was clean. I was just dressing the appropriate attire to go work on the boat, in the engine compartment. Um, I wasn't rude, I wasn't like standoffish, I didn't become defensive, I certainly didn't get emotional about the whole thing because I know my worth. And knowing my worth and not really giving a damn about what she thought, in that sense, because she doesn't know the full picture of what was going on. um, I was able to deflect that question, invite her out, invite her to come along with me. She accepted, and I remained polite. I opened the door for her, all that. But I didn't do it in a way that was pretentious. It was just uh, the way to do it. Um, you don't have to be an asshole at all, um, to command respect. You certainly don't have to. Another thing you need to consider, with this etiquette, with etiquette and good manners and all that stuff. While you're commanding respect, using while using good manners as was applied in the 50s, 60s, and 70s as a man, um, you can still state what you want, how you want it, when you want it, whatever that is, um, with proper language skills. If you speak English, use proper English. It all depends on the situation that you're in, and you might come off educated, you may not, whatever. But you always put your best foot forward all the time, and you're you represent yourself first, then you represent your family and the people around you, or your group or subgroup or whatever you are, based on how you carry yourself. For example, I coach boxing for a youth program. A lot of times you see me wearing the boxing shirt. So when I'm out and about in public, I don't only represent myself. I represent the program that I'm associated with, because I love doing what I do, and I always try to, or not really try. It's not necessarily you have to try. If you have to try, then it's not you. But I always represent myself in a way that reflect well on myself and the boxing program. And it's usually easy. Every now and then I might slip up, and that stuff happens, but for the most part, it's easy. It's a way of life. A woman who demands that you do the things that you do naturally, if she has some level of class, you're able to weed those type of women out. You'll weed out the ones with a level of class, or who also had etiquette training, or learned to be wife type material, or classy women. Um, Bad bitches are not really, they're a dime a dozen. I find the way they represent themselves comes off as riffraffs, gutter rats, not really worth my time a day. Now, if I was the type of person that was into smashing, obviously those are the type of women I'll go after. But that's not my nature. That's not, the place I'm at. That's not where I'm the most happiest. For you guys, you might be, in that place. You're younger. You know, you want to, like, I guess, sow your seeds or whatever. You wanna build that body count. Um, by all means, chase them. in that way, but you can still pursue women or seduce women um, with charm, using etiquette and whatnot, as long as it's part of who you are. And if a woman demands that you open the door or whatever, it's because she's aware of those etiquettes, but she has never practiced those etiquettes. Those etiquettes are not rights; they're privileges, and so it should not be demanded. And if a woman demands such a thing um, as a right, you have to be very careful, because then you'll be sliding into simp mode by catering to that to, to, to her desires. Um, Now, if a woman, I'll give you a really good example. Several years ago, I was in Las Vegas with a visiting. I was with my ex-girlfriend. She had a long time friend living there, and we we would walk to the door, and rather than she demand that I open the door for her, she would stand and wait, because we were following her. She would stand and wait, and didn't have to say a word, and I understood, as a duty to open the door for her, and I would open the door for her without thinking about it, um, without being a simp, because she did not demand it, by running a face. She just stood there and waited to give me the opportunity to be a man, and I respected that. And then I've encountered women, younger women, well, modern women now, who, they would say some sly comment, or how come you open the door for me, and things like that, and I'll say, well, I don't see any women around, you know, that's how I would respond, and I wouldn't open the door. Um, so you gotta be able to identify um, the games that's being played by modern women. Most classy, well bred, well raised, I should say, not well bred, but well raised women who have been raised with some class and etiquette understands that a man opening the door for her is not her right, but a privilege. And as long as she presents herself in a level of class and elegance that commands the kind of respect in a feminine way, a man, me, you, can easily reach out there, open that door for her without any negativity attached to it. If you have any questions, ask it in the comment section down below. Like and subscribe. Again, men in the 50s, 60s, and 70s applied etiquette when engaging women, and it never challenged their masculinity as it does now. And again, as long as you do it without, looking for something in return, or looking for praise, or some sense of self gratification, gratification from the woman, you're good. Do it because it's part of who you are. That's how you were raised. That's how you learn. If you're interested in learning those things, I'm sure there are videos online on how to about proper table etiquette. Learn it. You might end up having dinner at some, or lunch or whatever, at some business gathering where it's lofty like that. You might travel to a foreign country representing yourself, your country, your family, and maybe London, and you're invited, or you're participating in a formal dinner, 5-course meal, and you'll be able to navigate that stuff without any problems, representing yourself well, and the people, and in your culture. Again, so if you have any questions, ask it in the comment section down below. Like, subscribe, share the video, especially if you're young and you know other young men that can use the information. And you all have a good day.